Albert Einstein once said if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. What was your moment when someone judged you like that? Not me, but my brother. When he was in elementary school, when grades are based on things other than test scores, the teacher noted on his report card that he needs to work on his skill at cutting with scissors. My brother is left-handed, and the scissors in the classroom were for right-handed people. Was contacted by a recruiter and pitched a job opening that fit my description perfectly, as recruiters do. I pushed back and asked to see the exact listing, so I could verify. I questioned a bit on the requirements that stated specific programming knowledge, and was assured multiple times that, while it was on there, it wasn't the primary job function and they don't need a programmer. So, booked the interview. Showed up, said hellos, and was thrown at a terminal and asked to write a pile of custom code for something. Had to politely explain that I was assured multiple times by the recruiter that this wasn't a programming position, and was told to just give it a shot anyway since you're already here. Like, you're looking for a programmer and you're so hard up that you'd waste your time interviewing someone who's just told you that they don't program at all? One of the interviewers was their lead programmer, and she was extremely petulant toward me for wasting their time. It was quite the experience. I had a similar experience, though not to quite the same degree. Had a phone interview with the hiring manager for a data analyst role where I was clear that my SQL knowledge was very limited and learned through web development rather than data analysis. Told him I wanted to improve my SQL but wouldn't lie that I was proficient already. Was invited to interview and explained the same to the interviewers. The hiring manager was not one of them. Talked through my skills and experience in my current data analyst role. They said it was fine that I wasn't an SQL expert but wanted me to take their test anyway, just to see where I was at. They said it wouldn't be a major factor. Unsurprisingly I struggled though was able to make reasonable guesses at mostly correct answers, just not using the proper syntax. Hiring manager comes in to mark the test, talks me through all the things I did wrong and then was just like okay let's end it there, bye. There was supposed to be another part to the interview but they just skipped it and escorted me out. It was embarrassing. I totally understand that I might not have been right for the role but I was honest about my skills and it just felt like such a waste of everyone's time to even interview me if the SQL portion was so important. They could have just said from the very first phone interview that they needed me to have those skills and wouldn't be able to invest the time to get me up to speed. I needed a performance art class for my degree. I took drawing. I made many mistakes and etiquette errors. Did you know you're not supposed to talk to the nude models? I didn't. It's also really frowned upon to request specific positions because you find drawing foreshortening quite challenging. Oh, also, I suck at drawing as it turns out. The professor wanted to give me a D. We had a chat. I told him I should be graded like I was a psych major with no talent whatsoever who did develop a number of technical improvements over the semester. I got an A. He said I should have taken debate instead, because I clearly had a talent for that. In high school I was really good at debate and aced all my government classes. However, I had to take a pottery class for an art credit. I sucked. Hardcore. My vase looked like some bees had taken crack before they built their hive. The teacher legitimately thought I was special needs. 2 years later I was working retail to help put myself through college. I ran into the teacher one day. "It is so awesome you have a job. Good for you." I felt like Kevin Malone being patronized by Holly Flax. My mother loves to tell this story to her friends. Had an English teacher that said any stories I wrote were bad. I thought that I'd done a good job on it, so I showed it to a different English teacher who said it was brilliant but I needed to spell check it. Turns out the first teacher basically didn't read it, just saw the spelling errors. Several years later I got diagnosed with dyslexia. This reminds me of the time my class had to write down what we wanted to be. I told my 7th grade science teacher I wanted to be a writer, but I wrote it on an index card. When she saw the index card, she saw my terrible handwriting and immediately looked directly at me and said, "Some of us should reconsider what we want to be." Needless to say, I've been excelling at basically every writing assignment ever. I wrote for my high school and college newspaper, and some even got awards. In fact, I got so many writing achievements with ease that I still laugh about how she judged my writing's worth on the handwriting instead of the actual content. I was always told how bad sleeping in class was despite acing my classes, and teachers would complain to my parents about how much I slept. I felt so horrible for so long and slept early almost every day to no avail. Turns out I have narcolepsy. So, were you micronapping? Or out for the whole lesson? Hope you are now supported in managing this. I would fall asleep for between 5 to 60 minutes. Don't know what it depends on, but it's random. During that time, I'd have vivid dreams and multiple dreams, even if I was out for only 10 minutes. Even now I still fall asleep in every class. I don't manage it in any way other than resisting and taking some medication, which helps sometimes. I used to play a lot of poker on my phone, but never with real people. At one point I was up well over $1 million. One day I went to a convention and there was a charity poker game. Since a lot of time on the phone the computer gives you your options and so on, I was excruciatingly awkward and came across as a bumbling idiot who didn't know what he was doing. This wasn't intentional, but it did work in my favor. I won a nice tablet that night. Playing sports growing up, I would make these comically bad errors. The ball would hit me directly in the face, or I would swing at a pitch way too late. Everyone gave me shit, even the coaches and parents. I kept playing because I enjoyed being active and around my friends, but I never understood why no matter how much I practiced I struggled with basic things that everyone else could do without thinking. I go to the eye doctor as an adult, and he tells me that I have a condition in one of my eyes that means I don't have binocular vision, and as a result of very poor depth perception. It's physically impossible for me to track a moving object in space like everyone else. I know the pain, mate. Was forced to play volleyball in high school even though I obviously couldn't follow the ball. I was once looking right at it but couldn't spot it, and it hit me right in the face. Turns out I have a retinitis pigmentosa, which not only means I can't follow objects, but I can't see at night. My peripheral vision sucks, and anything that requires precision movement is out of the question. Thankfully I am great in other fields that do not require good eye coordination. When HR at a company had me interview for a different position than I had applied for, the position they interviewed me for was one I knew nothing about, and told them as much. Despite me telling them before each round of interviews that they had made a mistake, I still had to endure a full day of people asking me questions that I had no answer to. Maybe for some it won't be a situation like the Einstein quote, but I felt like a fish trying to climb a tree. A few months ago I got the chance for an interview for an okay job. I finished all tests with almost 100% and finished the first 2 interviews quite good, and when I got to the last one they started asking me questions that had nothing to do with my profession. I was completely silent because it has nothing to do with what I studied. I think that I even looked like a fish gasping for water. After they started to make fun of me, I just walked out. I was the fish trying, and failing, to climb the tree, and my boss called to offer me a position swimming. That time my boss called me to tell me I sucked at my job, but followed it up by telling me I got crazy good comments about this one small part of my job, so would I like to do that full time? Did the new thing for 6 years and used it to land another, even better, position at the same company. Thanks for recognizing my talents, old boss. You were a bit of a shit boss, but when it mattered you really were a help. Since so many are asking, here's actual detail. moved from software implementation, which had a bit of a teaching component to it, to formally teaching how to use the software. Have since moved into writing the content that is taught.